No, this isn't a drill. Fulham are actually signing a footballer. Not a chef, not a 34-year-old backup goalkeeper, sorry Benjamin Lecomte, but an actual, real-life, exciting footballer. Samuel Chukwueze, a direct, left-footed right winger, electric in one-on-ones, dynamic in the final third, and let's be honest, an attacking profile that we've not had in years. But is he the right footballer? And will he fix Fulham's biggest attacking problem? And most importantly, how will he fit into Marco Silva's attacking system? Let's take a closer look. Born in Umuahia, Nigeria, Chukwueze started out in the Diamond Football Academy. Even as a teenager, the word on him was clear. This kid was electric, direct, impossible to contain in 1v1s. He didn't just want to take on his man 1v1, he wanted to embarrass them. At just 17, Villarreal spotted his potential and brought him to Spain. But he wasn't just hanging around in the youth team. After being there for 1 year, he made his first team debut for Villarreal and started making headlines across La Liga. He was fearless, unpredictable and effective. In 2019, he was nominated for the Golden Boy Award, putting him alongside the likes of Erling Haaland, João Felix and Jadon Sancho. This wasn't hype, this was projection. You could see the sort of player he was going to become, but his path hasn't been perfectly smooth. While Chukwueze continued to show flashes of brilliance at Villarreal, helping them win the Europa League trophy in 2021, he suffered from inconsistency. Final product was sometimes lacking. His decision-making in the final third could be hit or miss. But what you always got every single game was intent. He was always looking to go forward, always willing to take risks, and always a pain to defend against. Eventually, he earned a move to AC Milan in 2023, a big step up. But at AC Milan, his minutes were limited. Whether due to tactics, injuries, or the presence of more senior attackers, Chukwueze's role was more one of an impact sub. But even off the bench, he was producing elite attacking output per 90. Which brings us to now, Fulham, a team that has desperately lacked this kind of profile, especially on the right. Chukwueze is a left-footed right winger, but not just any kind of winger. We're talking about one of the most efficient dribblers in Europe. You're going to hear this a lot, but it's worth repeating. Chukwueze lives for one-on-ones. This is his thing. He wants the ball, he wants his fullback isolated, and he wants to cause chaos. He's not a possession-based wait-and-see kind of winger. He causes the problems, and that is exactly what Fulham have been lacking in our attack. But what makes him so dangerous isn't just pure speed. Adama Traore is fast, but Chukwueze combines speed with rhythm. His low centre of gravity, his disguise on his passes. When he's on his game, he can be unplayable. What's especially exciting, and this is crucial, is that Chukwueze's game has evolved. He's not just a head-down dribbler anymore. The past 2 seasons, we've seen him become far more composed in the final third. He's learning when to release the ball, when to thread those passes through. Now here's where things get interesting. This isn't just about highlights. This isn't just about vibes. The numbers, the real underlying stats back everything up. Samuel Chukwueze is one of the most productive wide players in Europe. Yes, I said it, one of the most productive wide players in Europe. And we're going to have a look at the stats now to show why that is. Now, let's get into the numbers. Because with Chukwueze, the eye test tells you one thing: flair, pace, danger. But the stats take it even further. They show us just how productive he really is. Now, across the last 365 days, playing in the Serie A and European competitions for AC Milan, Chukwueze put up some absolutely elite per 90 numbers, and that's considering he's had a poor season for his standards. Let's start with the dribbling, because that's his signature. Chukwueze averaged 2.93 successful take-ons per 90 minutes, placing him in the 97th percentile of all attacking players in Europe. That means only a handful of players across the entire continent beat defenders more often than he does. But it's not just that he tries to dribble, it's that he succeeds. His 57.6% dribble success rate is in the top 1% in Europe. That's not just good, that's elite. He's also a vertical threat. He carries the ball forwards with purpose. Chukwueze averages over 5.4 progressive carries per 90 and nearly 4 carries into the final third per game. That tells you he's not just showboating in midfield. He's consistently getting teams up the pitch, driving the ball into dangerous areas. And now let's talk about the most vital thing for any winger: chance creation. Last season, Chukwueze averaged 2.7 key passes per 90. That's 94th percentile. Again, absolutely elite. His expected assisted goals rate was 0.29, which means that statistically he was creating nearly one high-quality chance every 3 games in limited minutes. Combine that with 5.09 shot-creating actions per 90, and you start to realise this isn't just a winger who runs down blind alleys and hopes for a deflection. He's calculated, he's picking passes, he's cutting the ball back, he's doing all the things that Fulham have lacked on that right-hand side. Over his career, Chukwueze has consistently outperformed his XG and his XA. In other words, he's not just racking up numbers, he's exceeding what the models expect. Now, this usually suggests 2 things: high-quality finishing and good decisions in the final third. Last season for Milan, despite his apparent poor season, he still produced a combined 0.59 XG and XA per 90 minutes. That's edging into top tier output, especially when you consider he was mainly playing in a rotation role. For context, that's better attacking output than most Premier League wingers. Now, this is the kind of player that Fulham have been desperate for. Not someone with potential to perform, but someone who is performing. Someone who can inject pace, intent, and end product all in one. And crucially, someone who does it consistently. Not just once every 10 games, not when we're winning. His production isn't about stat padding, it's about breaking games open. So now we've seen what he can do, the big question remains, how will Marco Silva utilise him? Where does Chukwueze fit into Fulham's system? And how will this change the way that we attack? Well, to understand that, we need to have a look at how Fulham attack at the moment. And more importantly, where we've been going wrong. Traditionally, Fulham build through the left-hand side. That's where the chemistry has been. Anthony Robinson bombing forward, combining with Iwobi, creating overloads and delivering crosses. That pattern has worked at times, but it's also become predictable. And when teams set up to block that left channel, we often look out of ideas. We saw it clearly last season. There were games where we had control, we had possession, but we lacked that killer edge. No threat on the right-hand side. No one to take a man on and stretch the back line. That's where Chukwueze changes everything. He's not just another cog in the system, he gives Fulham a whole new attacking avenue. A way to drag defenders out of shape. A way to defeat those low blocks. A way to add width and directness without sacrificing structure. Because when Chukwueze receives the ball wide on the right wing, defenders have a problem. If you show him outside, he'll burn you for pace. If you show him inside, he'll turn onto that left foot and look for a pass or shot. And when you add someone like Rodrigo Muniz, a genuinely clinical poacher, into the mix, you start to see just how dangerous this can be. Chukwueze's ability to take on his man and deliver a ball into the box could be exactly what Muniz needs to kick on his season. Fulham haven't had many wingers in recent years who consistently create chances from wide areas. Chukwueze could be that guy. But there's another angle to this too, one that might not be obvious right away. It opens up the pitch for other players. Someone like Josh King, for example, could seriously benefit from having Samuel Chukwueze on the pitch. Imagine this. Chukwueze picks up the ball wide right, drives inside, drawing 2 defenders with him. That frees up the outside channel, and King, who's shown he has the intelligence to make those overlapping runs from midfield, darts into that space. Suddenly, you've got triangles on the right, movement, rotation, something Fulham have seriously lacked on that side of the pitch. And even if King isn't overlapping, Chukwueze's gravity, the way he forces defenders to make decisions, opens up space centrally. Now that's especially important when Fulham face compact, low-block defences. We struggled badly in those situations last season. Teams would sit deep, narrow, and wait for us to run out of ideas. Chukwueze doesn't just give us width, he gives us unpredictability. He's willing to run at defenders, take risks, and play those tricky passes that unlock a parked bus defence. Now, does all of this guarantee success? Of course not. Chukwueze will need time to adapt. He'll need rhythm, starts, and a bit of confidence from Marco. But stylistically, he's a near perfect fit for what Fulham have been missing. This isn't just a flashy signing, it's a tactical evolution. So we've covered what Chukwueze brings on the pitch, but there are still some major factors to consider when looking at the bigger picture. Let's start with the elephant in the room, AFCON. Both Samuel Chukwueze and Alex Iwobi are expected to represent Nigeria at the African Cup of Nations this year. That means Fulham could be without both of our starting wing options for up to a month, depending on how well Nigeria do. That's not ideal, and it makes depth even more important. The squad will need someone who can step in, and although Harry Wilson will presumably be that man, the signing raises interesting questions about Adama Traore's future at the club. Now, we all know what it's like watching Adama Traore play. Moments of magic, sure, but moments of frustration, definitely. With Chukwueze and potentially Kevin now in the mix, one has to wonder, where does Adama Traore fit into this squad? Because truthfully, I don't think he does. With his contract due to expire next season, I think that this could be the time to cash in. If Fulham are really wanting to plan for the future, then keeping Traore as a third choice winger and then letting him leave for free next season doesn't seem right. So while Chukwueze's arrival is first and foremost a tactical upgrade, it's also a structural one. It clarifies roles, it creates competition, it gives Marco Silva a little bit more of a headache. But that's what a good signing does. It doesn't just add quality, it elevates the standard. It forces others to raise their level or fall behind. So is Samuel Chukwueze the perfect signing? Maybe, maybe not. But what's clear, crystal clear, is that Fulham have brought in a player that we have been missing for years. Someone who gives us a spark. A right winger who's fearless in possession. A dribbler who doesn't hesitate. A creator who unlocks defences, and a presence who forces defenders to think twice every time he gets the ball. Now, he's not a finished product. There'll be games where it doesn't quite click, but there'll also be moments, maybe against Liverpool or maybe in a cagey 0-0 at Craven Cottage, where Chukwueze gets the ball wide right, shapes up his man, cuts inside, and the whole pitch opens up. That's the player we've signed, and that's the potential that we're betting on. And for once, it feels like Fulham fans have every reason to be excited. So what do you think? Is Chukwueze the missing piece in Marco Silva's attack? Because I sure think so. Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe. I'll be making Fulham content for the rest of the season. So yeah, cheers.